Hello and welcome to Austria, specifically the Red Bull Ring. And yeah, the format of this one will be a little bit different, but let's get to the action first. So this guy was doing his own thing on the track. We see me flashing by there. I was on a quali lap, and this is what it looked like from my perspective. So yeah, not ideal the way they were on the track there and going about fixing their issues. Same thing here. So these are two McLarens. They both have Pro in the name, and I'm under the impression they were kind of like a duo on racing together, or maybe it's not really racing, but yeah, doing their own thing. And so I joined this lobby because it's very rare to find a Red Bull Ring lobby that has people in them. So I was very happy to find it. I set out on my first quali lap. Then the first clip happened. Set out on my second quali lap. The second thing happened. I did manage to get a 133.9 or something, which is really not a good time at all. My personal best is in the 130s. But yeah, these two guys were kind of making it difficult. And anyway, with the 133 point whatever it was still an easy P1 because the rest of the lobby seemed really weak. Um, this was a separate instance, by the way. I just wanted to show you what they're up to. Had me laughing out loud actually during the session as well. But so I brought it home again. I think I did a 132 point something, which was a provisionally P1, but in the end, Fortin ended up doing a much better, or quite a lot better time than me. I believe it was a 129. Unfortunately, the original recording I didn't have any sound on it. Since it was right after I recorded my Formula 1 video, and the Formula 1 game is so badly optimized that it somehow prevented ACC sound recording in my next one. So I had to re-record this all from the replay, and that's what we're looking at. So the layout is a little bit different, unfortunately. But anyway, I started this P2 in the double file warm-up part right before the race. I figured I would drop back because it was a 30-minute race, and well, 14 or Fortin would put up a good fight, but the others not so much. I figured, so I felt more like doing a comeback drive, especially since the two McLarens seemed like super easy pickings. And actually they hung back at the start as well, which I was a little happy about because I didn't feel like putting myself too much in peril by trying to overtake them. But anyway, so right at the start we set out, and I'm now in P5 behind Killian. In front of Killian is Belic, then Reurl, and then Fortin. And we're off, and so far the pack is pretty tight together. So Killian, I think, was showing streaks of speed during qualifying, but then, yeah, I think on the start they were still a little back, so looking to make them my first victim of an overtake, basically. And that is lap 1 completed with no major incidents, so happy days. I am right behind Killian, and my turn 1 is better than theirs, so looks like I'm getting a good run up to turn 2, which is the main overtaking opportunity on the Red Bull Ring. Of note, I did this one in an endurance event by Scottish Legend several weeks ago, but ever since I haven't driven it much at all because it is so hard to find lobbies. But so coming up to turn 2, I made sure to get a good draft all the way up the mountain. And then I was very close behind coming into the braking zone, so yeah. If you look at them, they're doing my typical defensive move, so not leaving a full gap on the outside. Oh yeah, this is turn 1, so not here yet. So kind of defending the outside line, but leaving a bit of a gap on the outside, but not enough for me to dive into. And then right before the braking zone, they move all the way to the outside so that they have the best braking zone and possibility, whereas I am on the inside, but I still quite easily actually outbrake them. So not too difficult of an overtake, and this now puts me P4 behind Belic. The timesheet in the replays is always a little slow, although more accurate than when it's a live recording and the timesheet is on the fritz. So it will catch up. So here we see P2, Röhrl, going off track. When they came back on, it was a little tight to my taste, but nothing too bad. So now behind Belic, who's in P2. Fortin in P1 is kind of separating himself from the pack, but not by too much. So my hope here is that I can close up to Belic, get P2, and then maybe try and find my consistency from several weeks ago and several weeks of not driving the track. So try to get back to my consistency and yeah, maybe go after Fortin at that point. First though, I will need to overtake Belic, and something that I find about sim racing that I haven't touched upon all that much. In my mind, it sometimes feels quite a lot like a rope pulling contest. So yeah, skipping ahead a bit because nothing much was happening. So back to the rope pulling contest, it's kind of like you see your opponent across you, and you're just kind of looking at each other and how close they are or you are to the middle line, and then you try to like pull them closer. And sometimes you grit your teeth and you pull extra hard, but then the rope kind of slips, and sometimes you get something done. And like that back and forth that you get in rope pulling, that's kind of what it feels like when you're trying to attack the gap between you and another guy. At least for me, that analogy works. So here with Belic, I was looking at them and just trying to, you know, inch closer, get within that overtaking zone. But then sometimes you overdrive a bit, like I did in turn 1 in the previous clip. And here the gap just kept opening, and it felt like I wouldn't be able to get back to Belic and mount an attack. Fortunately for me though, Fortin was losing some of their consistency, so they fell into the clutches of Belic, kind of, which meant that there was a good chance that they would be battling it out between the two of them and allowing me to come back. Meanwhile, also, a lot of corners were still kind of try and find the line I used to do before, but at least turn 2 started to come back to me. So I felt like there I was yeah, doing better from before and at least closing the gap a little bit. On the other hand, Killian behind, my first proper overtake of the race, was clawing back the gap to me. So while I was for a long time looking at the front, now suddenly Killian was really close, and when I noticed it, I started to feel the pressure, and yeah, my rope pulling analogy again, I started looking behind and I saw the gap close a bit, so I wanted to work on that. And in turn 1, 2, 3, 4, I guess, I really wanted to eke out as much as I could, but I ended up braking too little, which put me all the way on the outside of the track, and that then led to me not being able to really go on the throttle. We'll see it here again in the replay. So this is turn 3, all good still, but then in turn 4 I brake myself a little bit now on the outside, but it's such a long and sweeping corner, and all the way either I can brake harder, come back to the inside and then get on the throttle more, but that will cost me time, or I can just kind of try and stick it on the outside and stay as fast as I can, but that also consistently costs me time. So in the end I fall back. I'm still right behind, so here my plan is to just get as close as possible through this turn and then have a good shot on the start-finish straight, but instead I end up overdriving it even a bit more, so now I'm staring at the back of Killian, and with Killian driving away from me. So yeah, not a great lap. We can see in the bottom right that it was a 134.2, that's actually pretty bad. And my personal best in the race so far is a 132.0, so that's already not very good. So it's not going swimmingly. We keep trying to hang in there, recompose, compose myself, and just try again once you can kind of clean up the lap time. So next time around I do a 133 point. Let's wait for it to show. Okay, it didn't show, sorry. Anyway, 133 point something, so not good enough. Also, at this point, Killian was just doing slightly better lap times than me, so I figured these are attainable goals. My personal best is in the 130, so next time around I did a 132.0, not quite as fast as my personal best this race, so 5 hundredths of a second slower, but I was losing less time to Killian. And here, coming up to turn 2, I was noticing that I really had a better line than them. First of all, on the entry, I was taking a much wider entry line. And then I think my braking point was also better. So we'll see again and again that I just kind of closed the gap there. Turn 1, not so much. But then, yeah, running up the hill or up the mountain, especially in the braking zone here, I will again close up the gap quite a bit. Frustratingly, Killian was also tightening up their lap times. So while I was doing better, they still were inching away from me by tenths across the full lap. Even though in turn 2, I'm clearly much closer than a couple laps before already. So yeah. Finally here, we come back to the start-finish straight. I have a better line through the final turn. They still have a bit of a gap on me, but it's not as bad anymore as it was before, so I brought it down a little. Around turn 1 there was someone spun out, and that someone was Belic. So while I was looking at Killian, Belic had been battling with Fortin. So we'll see that play out here in the replay. So Belic, much better exit out of the last corner. Starts to immediately close the gap, is a lot closer already by the time they reach the start line or the finish line. Going into turn 1, there's a very, very big dive, a bit reminiscent of Ray's, and reminiscent of Ray's as well. They just kind of spin out because they're too fast. So next we see Killian and me making their way through, and then he just kind of gives up. I guess he wanted to still go for it, but spun out again on trying to get on the throttle too fast. It happened once more time, and then they basically gave up and they dropped out of the race. So Killian moves up to P2, I move up to P3, and Fortin is just kind of driving away a bit in the distance. So around we go again. We're now 13 laps into the race. I am skipping quite a lot of the laps because it's just kind of an ebb and flow between me and Killian, where sometimes I'm a bit closer, then I'm a bit further. And yeah, that's just how it plays out. We were actually really evenly matched pace-wise. So it was really hard to get close enough to do anything. And 14 laps into the race, I think we'll eventually do 20 laps, which makes sense for a Red Bull Ring and 30 minutes of race. So I was starting to think that this isn't happening. They're too consistent. I can't get close enough. And even if I do get close enough, it will be so difficult to actually make an overtake. I think my best shot would be into turn 2. But if you're closely matched on pace, you of course need to outpace your opponents to overtake. And you need to do so by significant margin enough that you can do an overtake in basically one straight and one corner, usually. You get these prolonged battles, but at my level especially, those are still quite rare, and they are rare in general. Now, on the upside, as we have done 17 laps by now, this time it was Killian catching up to Fortin. So it seemed that driving by themselves in the lead wasn't Fortin's forte, pun intended. So this puts Killian on the back of them, which allows me to then come closer, because presumably Fortin is now looking in their mirrors. Killian is thinking about making a move somewhere, which in both cases might hamper their lap times. And in the meantime, I'm just sneaky coming a little bit closer. So yeah, happy days for me. At this corner, turn 4 I think it is, I approach quite a bit better, so I stick more to the curb. Also here, throughout the race I was testing different lines through that one, and I think I really prefer a pretty tight line on the first corner, so you can get on the throttle earlier through the second part of it. It's basically an S section. This corner I had the most issue with. I really tried to get to the curb, but I found it so difficult because I feel like the camber isn't all that great there. And then the last corner is also kind of difficult to hook up, but I was getting better and better at it, at least. Same thing with the first corner of the lap that we're coming up to now. Now, as we are coming up there's a car exiting the pit, so this is a back marker. I think it is a Chris in the Lamborghini. Could be Whiteley, I'm not sure anymore. We'll see in a moment, I suppose, which brand it is. I was hoping that they would kind of hamper the first P1 and P2 a little bit more than they did. Maybe in turn 2 it's kind of funny that they tried to make a move there to kind of unlap themselves. But yeah, didn't work out for them. And they went off track, and this now puts me right behind them. And instead of hampering P1 and P2, looks like I might be more the party that gets hampered. So yeah, ends up being the case here. They do rejoin the track, and they kind of stay out of my way, but I still had to hold back on the throttle and couldn't use all of the space on the exit, so definitely slowed me down a bit. Not too bad though, I'm still about as close to Killian as before. Now about the 1.5 second range. But yeah, we're now 18 laps completed into the race, almost making it 19, so we're about to start the final lap, and at this point I figured, okay, it's a P3 podium place. I'm okay with that from dropping back at the start and making my way back to the front relatively quickly. Wasn't my dream scenario, but the lap time just really wasn't coming to me, so sometimes it just doesn't happen, and you have to be glad that you have the consistency to get what you get. Heading now again to turn 2, I was still hoping to bring it a lot closer here. It's still showing as a 1.5 second gap, although I do feel like it may have run up a little bit. But both Fortin and Killian are not taking using all the space on the entry of the corner.